No spin, no bias, no censorship. I'm Dan Wootton. This is Outspoken episode number 338. And breaking today, Tommy Robinson urged to sue Liberal Democrat Deputy Daisy Cooper, who he has branded a dirty smear merchant, as she repeated her PMQ's attack in Parliament yesterday on LBC radio, opening the door for legal action.
But it is not just the Chinese government that is a threat to our country. On Monday, the far-right, racist hate preacher Tommy Robinson, who is currently on trial for allegedly refusing to comply with counter-terror police. I stood up for my values today. I don't like seeing racism in our society. I don't like seeing far-right extremists causing violence on our streets.
Of course, Tommy Robinson is not a racist, as anyone who has done a scrap of their own research can attest.
And I felt let down by the people that in the organisation that were in positions, the same people that are calling me a traitor now, that were in positions, invited Nazis to stand with them in the street. Now, I am the public face. It's my face that is up for this. I have to be true to myself. I despise Nazis. I despise racism. You see the elderly, you see the young, the beautiful young women, all of them, they're not out fighting the war. None of these people, look. So you see that, and it just brings it home.
But of course, calling out the Islam threat to the UK doesn't make you racist, but rather a patriot, as yet more shocking cases emerge.
Asylum seeker laughed and danced after stabbing a worker in his migrant hotel to death, a court has heard.
Moment, two men tried to kidnap a teenager from a busy city centre street in broad daylight.
Didn't like this hotel and he wanted to be moved. So because he got frustrated and found that the process was taking too long, this was his method of speeding up the process, coating this rather nice 4-star hotel room in green paint.
So can you believe, with all of this going on, the ex-flagship BBC News presenter Mishal Husain has decided to launch a valiant defence of, wait for it, ISIS bride Shamima Begum, who she claims was treated poorly by the MSM because she was a Muslim, rather than because she was a terrorist traitor unconcerned by beheadings.
And I'll share an example here of someone for whom I think it is worth asking the question, would she have been perceived exactly the same way if she'd had a different name, had not been Muslim?
Why the elite class are so out of touch about the real threat to the UK. In my digest next, then the superstar panel are here. Today, reformed Epping Pink Lady leader Orla Minihane and Lee Harris, the independent reporter of Addicted to News. Also coming up on the show today, Green Party leader Zach Galansky finally destroyed on live TV as Jeremy Vine makes the mistake of putting the Liberal favourite on the same panel as Carol Malone. You've got to see this. Keira Knightley laughs off the JK Rowling trans backlash in further proof the woke mob are losing. And King Charles and Prince William are at loggerheads over Prince Andrew as Virginia Giuffre haunts the disgraced Duke from beyond the grave with the release of her bombshell autobiography causing utter horror for the royal family. I'm going to take you through it. Then, in the uncancelled after show on Substack, Lady Colin Campbell is standing by. She will be unleashed after Meghan Markle made a host of gaffes during her latest onstage appearance in Washington, D.C. I'm very much looking forward to having Lady C back on the after show. You can sign up, www.outspoken.live. Before the end of the main show, though, we revealing today's greatest Britain and Union jackass. You can vote for the worst Briton in the world today in the live chat on YouTube right now. Here are your nominees. Rachel from Accounts, nominated by Real Mick Cass for finally admitting what we already knew. She's about to raise taxes for working people, breaking a major Labour manifesto pledge. Jess Phillips, nominated by Blame Game, who says after intense public pressure, the Labour government promised a national inquiry into grooming gangs in June of this year. So why has the minister responsible for the safety of women and girls, Jess Phillips, made zero progress? Why indeed? And Nina Mishkov, nominated by Drew59Blue, who says Nina is a prime example of why this country is in such a state. She blames our pensioners, Brexit, etc. for our increasing debt, but thinks that all the illegals cost us is next to nothing. Another champagne socialist who doesn't give a damn what happens to the rest of us. Okay, so 3 women going head to head to be named our Union Jackass today. Get voting, keep your feedback coming in throughout the show, and do stick with us today. I will reveal the winner before we go tonight. But now, let's go. Britain is facing a holy war in the next decade as Liberals allow Islam to take over our biggest cities, putting our future as a Christian country under serious threat. But a decision has been made by the deep state and by the elite class to pretend this isn't happening. And when someone points it out, they will deride them as a far-right racist. And if they become too powerful, they will simply designate them an enemy, then a criminal, and eventually, as we're currently seeing with Tommy Robinson, a terrorist. The mainstream media has always played along, and that's why we now have 2 versions of the United Kingdom. Those who watch the independent media and shows like this, who understand the Unite the Kingdom activist is a patriot like you or me, fighting to the death to save our dying nation. Then we have the others, who rely on the British bashing corporation, woke ITV, and Sly News, which ignore the threat of Muslims and constantly lie about a non-existent far right. Their heroes are women like this.
But it is not just the Chinese government that is a threat to our country. On Monday, the far-right, racist hate preacher Tommy Robinson, who is currently on trial for allegedly refusing to comply with counter-terror police, claimed that his legal costs are being paid by Elon Musk. It is outrageous that a man who has so much control over what people read online every day could be funding someone who stokes far-right extremism on our streets. If this was Putin, the government surely would act. So will the Prime Minister commission the security services to assess the threat that Elon Musk poses to our democracy and recommend measures to this House that we can take to stop it?
Well, I can tell her we do look across the board at threats to our democracy and must continue to do so. I won't comment on the particular case given the state of legal proceedings.
Now, Ms. Cooper was protected there by parliamentary privilege, of course, but she stupidly then went on LBC and repeated her slanderous libel.
Tommy Robinson has responded to your question with an expletive-laden series of tweets and attacks on you personally. Do you worry that you're getting into something that's going to be quite nasty, a fight that's going to be very difficult?
Look, I stood up for my values today. I don't like seeing racism in our society. I don't like seeing far-right extremists causing violence on our streets. And those are things that I wanted to speak up for. I'm elected to do that, elected on that platform. And I'm encouraged by the messages of support that I've received from MPs of all political parties and from people from various groups that campaign against racism who have said that they felt that today I said something that they considered to be brave and courageous. And quite frankly, I think we need to see more bravery and courage in our politics.
Now, Tommy responded to that, writing on X, calling out this lying, slandering piece of shit for who she is. Politicians think they can be above contempt. They are not. Contempt in this case is fully justified, deserved even. Politicians think they can lie and slander someone using their parliamentary privilege and get away with it. Newsflash, they can't. Politicians think they can cry victim after instigating very mild pushback from a working class lad. I don't give a shit about you. You're a cry bully and filthy smear merchant. Ask why Daisy, the deputy leader of the Lib Dems, has not posted about grooming gangs operating in the UK, except for when Elon Musk brings attention to it. And rather than post about this stain on our nation, she opts to criticise Elon for daring to speak out, accusing him of wanting attention off the back of child sexual exploitation. What a filthy piece of shit she is. Her values have led to the industrialised rape and enslavement of generations of British children. But I can tell it is the racist claim that has upset Tommy Robinson the most. So he asked Grok for the truth. This was the reply. After searching Tommy Robinson's posts for racist content via web queries, none appear. His critiques focus on Islamist ideology, grooming gangs, and migration's cultural effects, not racial inferiority. He often highlights anti-white racism or hypocrisy in accusations against him. Specific examples of prejudice based on race rather than behaviour remain elusive despite frequent media claims. He sent that to Daisy Cooper and added anything to say, "You filthy smear merchant." Now, it's important we're honest about what is happening here, and I think Bruce Unfiltered summed it up very well by writing, "Let's be clear. What Daisy Cooper said in Parliament is dangerous. She effectively implied Tommy Robinson shouldn't be allowed a legal defence unless it's government approved. That's authoritarianism in a nutshell. Under UK law, every person has the right to a fair trial and to appoint or receive legal assistance from whoever they choose. Nothing in the Legal Aid, Sentencing and Punishment of Offenders Act 2012, the Legal Services Act 2007, or the Proceeds of Crime Act 2002 gives the government any power to restrict who can fund your defence, unless that money comes from criminal activity. Elon Musk hasn't broken a single law. But Daisy Cooper's words break with the very foundation of British justice, equality before the law. Indeed, Bruce believes the entire terror trial of Tommy Robinson is a chilling development for a country where our democracy is now online.
Whether you like him or not, this one should set alarm bells ringing, because this isn't really about Tommy Robinson at all. It's about what happens when the state decides who it wants to target. When the state starts using counter-terrorism powers on people it politically disagrees with, that is outright authoritarianism. And if it can happen to one person, regardless of your opinion of them, it can happen to absolutely anybody. But I think we've already seen some cases of this. The prosecution claimed the stop wasn't about his views, but his supposed far-right associations. Yet they didn't name a single individual, and funny enough, in today's climate, that could have been any one of 20 million people. Because once you give the state the power to decide who's extreme, who's dangerous, or who deserves scrutiny, it is only a matter of time before that label lands on ordinary people who simply disagree. The case has been adjourned until November the 4th, when the verdict will be handed down. And let's be honest, the outcome will tell us a lot about where Britain really stands on liberty in 2025. This isn't about defending one man, it's about defending the principle that no government should have the power to criminalise opinion.
Now, remember, outside of the UK, Tommy is viewed very differently. I mean, overnight, he's just been given a hero's welcome in Israel, where he is on a state visit as a guest of a sound Israeli minister.
Shalom.
How are you feeling?
I'm happy to be here, mate. I'm honoured to be here.
What are you hoping from this trip?
I'm hoping to show solidarity with real strong leadership. I wish our country had a leader like Netanyahu. We have weak cowards. Our government have recognised a terrorist state. And that government are not elected on a mandate, they are elected with 20% of the public vote. So I don't want people in Israel to think that the other 80% of people, not even the majority of Labour support them, support recognising a terrorist state. So I'm here to show solidarity with the Jewish people and the Israeli people for a strong and hopefully form good friendships and understand, because Israel is surrounded by jihad. Britain is going to be surrounded by jihad. Yeah? The problems that Israel faces here are the same problems that we're going to face. So the security issues that Israel has and Jews have in the state of Israel, we're all going to face in Europe.
Sheer numbers. Because you hear the numbers, don't you? But when you see that and you see an individual face and you think about an individual family and you think about the individual children or the mum and dad and you see the scale of that, and then you know the size of Israel, you know that every single person must have known someone that was directly affected as a family, as a community, by this attack. And then you see so many, like, as you walk around, you see the elderly, you see the young, the beautiful young women, all of them, they're not out fighting the war. None of these people, look. So you see that, and it just brings it home.
Now, I would argue that's a humanitarian, not a racist hate preacher. There was a time, you might remember it, many moons ago, before the MSM stopped platforming people like myself, Katie Hopkins and Tommy Robinson, where he was allowed to speak openly on the state broadcaster, the British Bashing Corporation, to the chief interrogator, Jeremy Paxman, no less, and explain his journey and explain how he wasn't a racist. Now, given lots of people are waking up to what's going on at the moment and giving Days and Koopies smears, I actually think it's worth you seeing quite a bit of what Tommy Robinson said back then.
I had a long time to think about where I was going. I know it seems strange to say it, but where I was going, where the movement was going and what I want. And then when I come out of prison, I see the organisation, elements of the organisation, fringe elements that were on the outskirts, had been welcomed back. I'd battled for 4 years to keep racists, Nazis, extremists out of this movement. I battled and dedicated my life to it. And they were invited back. And I felt let down by the people that in the organisation that were in positions, the same people that are calling me a traitor now, that were in positions, invited Nazis to stand with them in the street. Now, I am the public face. It's my face that is up for this. I have to be true to myself. I despise Nazis. I despise racism. I'm not about to be the public face. And that was one thing. I'd made that decision. I hadn't left, and then Lee Wrigley was killed.
What was the EDL? What is the EDL if it's not racist?
It's not racist. You see, this is what I want to say. I want to say a personal thank you to supporters of the English Defence League, because it's become my life, and I've grown to love many people in that movement. I see this as a massive step forward in the fight against Islamic extremism and fashion and the far-right extremism. The English Defence League is a collective group of ordinary people. The majority of people in that movement are ordinary people with heartfelt concerns, and they've been branded racist. I've been branded racist for 4.5, 5 years. Everyone's called me a racist and extremist.
Yeah, but you did say there should be no more mosques built in Britain unless Islam reformed.
Yeah. No, I said there should be no more mosques unless they're moderated and regulated in a way like schools are with Ofsted. I said I believe we need to know who's funding them. We need to know which preachers of hate are speaking in them if they are, and we need British-born Muslims in control of those mosques. Now, what's coming out of this is everyone's saying the English Defence League has been taken over by Nazis. That's not actually the case. Well, the point is that the first demonstration that I didn't go to, Manchester, they were welcomed back. There was a recent demonstration in Portsmouth where splinter groups, which I fought to keep out of it, actually give speeches. So for me, this is all about, for me, is being the public face. We've done this for 4 years. We've raised the profile. I think the English Defence League has been very successful in bringing things to the forefront. Sure. I now think it's at a point...
Have you changed your views?
My views, I think I want people to listen to my views, because what people portray my views and believe my views would be is not what they are. I don't hate Muslims. I don't hate Muslims at all. I have a...
Why do you want to stop mosques being built?
Unless they're moderated and regulated, because I believe there's a problem. And every time we see an undercover documentary, we see problems, and then it's like they say, oh, that's not Islam, and it's not representative. But there is a problem. But for me, this leaving is about, we're 4 years in. I see this as a step forward. I see this as an inevitable progression into what we were doing, and I don't see it beneficial to continue doing what we were doing.
Do you still think this country's in danger?
I know this country's in danger. I've just sat in there and watched the news and seen that we've got 2,000 British people out fighting out for Al-Shabaab. This country is in danger. Let's not pretend the biggest threat to this country is Islamist terrorism, extremism. At the same time, I despised far-right extremism. I've battled through this organisation to be true and to steer it in what me and my cousin Kevin have built it on. And we've built it on inclusive and welcoming everybody.
Sure, but you haven't changed your views.
No, basically, no one's listened to what I've said for 4.5 years, because our message has been lost in translation because of the actions of a minority. And that's...
I just thought that was really important for you to hear today. And isn't it fascinating how much the state broadcaster has changed in just a decade, a conversation that they would never allow us to hear today? And by the way, I couldn't believe this. Its presenters have been revealed as hard left extremists, right? Because the moment they leave the corporation, they show their true colours. We've seen it with Emily Maitlis, we've seen it with Lewis Goodall and John Sopel, and now we're seeing it with the ex-flagship BBC News presenter. She fronted their election, she fronted the Today programme, Mishal Husain, a Muslim who has bizarrely used her first public intervention as a campaigner for Islam to defend, wait for it, the ISIS bride, Shamima Begum. She said the media treated Begum poorly because she was a Muslim, rather than because she was a terrorist traitor unconcerned by beheadings. Watch.
Nearly 6 years ago, the chair of the press regulator Ipsos said, after 5 years in the role, that he thought Muslims were on occasion written about in the newspapers in ways Jews or Catholics would not be. And I'll share an example here of someone for whom I think it is worth asking the question, would she have been perceived exactly the same way if she'd had a different name, had not been Muslim? This story goes back to 2015 and 3 school friends leaving their homes in London, travelling through Turkey to join Islamic State, a proscribed terror group in Syria. It was soon after the murders of hostages, including journalists James Foley and Stephen Sotloff, aid workers Peter Kassig and David Haynes, and Alan Henning, a Salford taxi driver who was on his 4th trip delivering supplies to Syria when he was abducted by IS. Shamima Begum, one of the 3, was 15 at the time. 4 years later, The Times found her and interviewed her in a camp in Syria. She was 9 months pregnant, about to give birth to a 3rd child, her older 2 having died as babies through illness and malnutrition. The callousness of her words in that interview, including her saying she'd been unmoved by the sight of a captured fighter's severed head in a bin, prompted widespread revulsion. Amid the scramble to get the first TV interview, both Sky and the BBC reached her. One broadcaster said their correspondent had tracked down the IS bride in a hospital just hours after she gave birth. The other recorded their interview when her son was 3 days old, the distinctive cry of a newborn audible off camera as she spoke.
Okay, I'm genuinely astonished. And all her champagne socialists, filled with suicidal empathy, no doubt sat there nodding along. This is batshit crazy, but there's more.
When I watched these interviews, I saw something that appeared to go entirely unnoticed in editorial decision-making or was regarded as unimportant. I saw a teenage mother only just postpartum. I thought of my own experience, giving birth in NHS hospitals to 3 healthy babies, with family members helping out. I know I was in no fit state to give any interview in the weeks, let alone the days after those births, and certainly not an interview of consequence to the rest of my life, conducted without advice, representation, or even access to information. The teenager said it herself in one interview. I don't have my phone. I can't go on the internet. I don't know what's going on around me right now. I found these interviews very hard to reconcile with a sense of duty of care, assessing whether an interviewee is in a position to give informed consent or in a position where they can speak freely. Shamima Begum was still living among IS women. It was rare to see any focus in reporting of how she was under 16, legally a child, when she made the worst decision of her life, which, to be clear, was also criminal, because IS is a designated terror organisation.
Oh, so I'm glad you got that in there. At the end, Mishal Husain. How utterly bizarre. How utterly crazy. That the BBC's former flagship presenter goes on stage for her first major speech, pushing the Islam message and says, you know what, we've got to rehabilitate Shamima Begum. And let me tell you, when was the last time that there was a Catholic 15-year-old suicide bomber who went over to join one of our enemies? Let me tell you, that would be a big story, okay? But the suicidal empathy of an idiot like Mishal Husain, a dangerous idiot like Mishal Husain, proves that the MSM have an agenda. Their agenda is to cover up the serious threat that Islam, including the terrorists invading our country on a daily basis, pose to ordinary Brits. Yet the litany of evidence about what we are facing, it piles up every day. Like, why is Rhiannon White, who was allegedly killed last October by a migrant at the Asylum Hotel where she worked, who is currently on trial, why is she not a household name when you listen to the horror of her case, which is currently being outlined to court?
Asylum seeker laughed and danced after stabbing a worker in his migrant hotel to death, a court has heard. They were shown CCTV of Rhiannon White leaving the hotel to catch a train before a masked man is spotted following behind her. Prosecutors claim this man is Deng Chol Majek, a Sudanese asylum seeker from the hotel in Walsall. 2 minutes later, after Rhiannon was stabbed over 20 times with a screwdriver, the man re-emerges on the bridge holding a phone. Ms. White was on a call to a friend when the attack happened, and the jury was told Majek took the phone from her and threw it in a river. Majek, who claims to be 19, then allegedly returned to the hotel where he was seen laughing and dancing in excitement at what he had done. Majek has pleaded not guilty and the trial continues.
An illegal who shouldn't have been here. Why aren't politicians like Daisy Cooper speaking about him? Speaking about Rhiannon? Or how about speaking about the migrants trying to kidnap teenagers in broad daylight?
Moment, two men tried to kidnap a teenager from a busy city centre street in broad daylight. Muhammad Ali, aged 49, and his son Luqman Ali, 20, attempted to bundle the teen into a vehicle in central Birmingham. The 15-year-old girl can be seen walking along the street before being approached by two men. She is grabbed by the arms and the men try to bundle her into the back seat of a parked white Dacia. Bravely fighting back, the girl wrestles with the men for a moment on the pavement in a desperate bid to escape. As the men make to drive off, members of the public come over to intervene. The group try to stop the men from driving away with the terrified teen, gathering around the vehicle. The heroic members of the public then form a human barricade in front of the car, forcing it to stay put, and saving the girl from the kidnappers before she manages to escape and run to a nearby shop for help. The two suspects were quickly arrested at the scene for their role in the petrifying incident. Specialist officers are speaking to the girl and offering her support in the wake of the harrowing ordeal. Both Mohammed and Luqman are charged with kidnapping. Mohammed is also accused of false imprisonment and assault and have been remanded into custody.
Now, let's just not talk about that, right? And when the police do try and step in to patrol the bad behaviour of these communities, these Muslim communities, this is the response they get.
NSL, Wolverhampton.
NSL,
yeah,
Wolverhampton.
315.
Okay, so they told you to come here during the prayer times,
I'm
right?
I'm coming here by myself.
Oh, by yourself. Oh, so is it you who hating Muslims prayers time, right? Do you have some problem with my religion? What are you doing here just at this time, praying time?
Yellow lines, yellow lines.
Yeah, I understand it, but why are you not here every day?
Because if you come down, we get abused every day like you do.
No, I'm not abusing you.
You are, you got a camera
I'm
out.
not abusing. Am I abusing him? Hello, brothers. Am I abusing him?
I was having abuse.
I'm talking to you. I don't abuse. Why would I abuse? I think you're taking advantage of Muslims praying in the mosque and giving them tickets, where every day when we're having here arguments, fights, you're not coming, you're always abandoning this area, and now when the praying time...
And then you get to the disgrace of migrant hotels. Like in Highfield House Hotel in Southampton, where Turning Point UK has acquired footage of illegals attacking each other and trying to smash windows. None of them should be here. There was an equally disturbing report on Talk TV.
He was a Mauritanian asylum seeker. And why did he do this? Why did he do this? Because he didn't like his room. He didn't like this hotel and he wanted to be moved. So because he got frustrated and found that the process was taking too long, this was his method of speeding up the process. Coating this rather nice 4-star hotel room in green paint. We also have pictures, thanks to you, Isabel, of other rooms. Another room where 2 migrants apparently had a fight about drugs. And when you see this room, there it is. Look at the state of these rooms. This is a nice hotel, by the way, or at least it used to be. Now, on the floor there, if you we may get a close-up in a minute, but the carpet there, covered in blood. Absolute detritus everywhere. Look at the mess of it. Apparently, this was where 2 migrants, asylum seekers, had got into an extremely violent fight over drugs, which is a story in itself, really. But look at the state of this. Isabel, you brought these pictures in. This is through a contact of yours. Well, your thoughts on what we're looking at here?
Well, when I received these pictures this morning, I was just shocked. I mean, some will say, why be surprised? But this is how certain asylum seekers repay the generosity of the British taxpayer.
And all this does is add to the fury that we are paying for people who hate us, for people who want to destroy us, to live in luxury accommodation. Including, by the way, and this is real, this is not a spoof, this beautiful 16th century manor house, which Basil the Great has described as the poshest migrant hotel in the world. Watch.
Welcome to the Madeley Court Hotel. You need a backup. He needs backup. Someone need a backup. He needs backup. Viewers are here. Look at this architecture. Hey.
Hi, what's up, mate?
Come to film this building.
Film?
Yeah.
What film?
This building.
Building?
Doing a documentary on the housing crisis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. We are big problem, bro. My wife is pregnant.
Yeah.
And not take appointment in doctor.
You can't get appointment.
2 week going in her speaking. My wife problem and not.
What
go.
country are you from?
Georgia.
Georgia.
Yeah.
Okay. You staying in here then?
Yeah.
Okay.
4 months I'm living here.
4 months.
And
when the housing office come, is it? Look at this. Housing office. Housing information in Arabic.
So this is the private property. You're not allowed to come here.
I'm not allowed to come here?
No. Yeah.
Bit ironic though, isn't it?
This is not right. Are you trespassing?
I'm trespassing?
Yeah.
Do you not think that's a bit ironic? Look at that. We are told we are trespassing when we come to these places. People have entered the country illegally with no documentation. They're placed in here. And some of them are not even war-torn countries. So who are we kidding? Are we doing a training day, guys? Big training day?
No, as I said to your colleague, mate, we had a report that there's a protest, and that's why we've come down here in these numbers. Ultimately, that's the only reason why we're here in numbers.
Okay. We're not protesters.
So other officers have come from different directions.
We got any more on the way?
I don't know, mate. I don't believe so, but yeah, that's why we've come out in force. And all right.
Mental.
Yeah, I think they said there were 10.
Yeah, he said there was 10 protesters at the borderline. This is what your taxes are paying for.
Isn't that utterly astonishing? You get mugged, you get your house broken into, you get assaulted. The police are not going to show for you. No way. But if someone, citizen journalist, just walks inside a migrant hotel, which we are paying for, by the way, 10 police turn up to shut it down. There is a conspiracy of silence to try and stop us understanding where these migrants are being housed. Meanwhile, the response from Labour is total arrogance. Look at Lisa and Andy putting down men at pubs on the BBC.
We literally have. We
your
literally
government.
have. Can we just be very clear about
you
this?
carry on. Go on. Keep digging.
You've literally sent a trade delegation with Rachel Reeves to China within the last few months, and then you accuse us of not having a hard approach when we were the ones who charged these guys. You let them off.
Right, let's just talk about. Just calm down for a moment. Because
this is important. It's like the national security of our country.
I know, but you're literally just sitting on a sofa shouting like an angry man in a pub.
I don't think that's fair.
I don't think. Well,
I don't think it's true.
Okay, but can you stop doing that so that I can just answer the question? Because
I'm not doing that.
Yes, Lisa and Andy, there are lots of angry men up and down the country in pubs because of what you are doing to our country. You should listen to them rather than try and deride them. And what about Labour loser Neil Coyle being thrown out after a clash with Reform UK's Lee Anderson in Westminster?
I'm going to make some progress because I know there's a lot of people want to speak in this very important debate. I've always took through intervention. This isn't a coincidence, and it is a classic case, I believe, of a mayor who could not care less. He would sooner spend his time calling everybody who disagrees with him. I've just said I'm not going to give way, Miss McVeigh. He would sooner spend his time calling everybody who disagrees with him a racist, rather than stopping these endless knife attacks on the streets of London.
I'll remind members that it's down to the Speaker to accept or not. Is it a point of order? Well, I'll listen to your point of order and then we'll decide if it was.
Thank you very much. The point of order, Chair, is that where members are all required to not mislead the House or accidentally mislead the House, there is an issue with some of the figures that have just been presented. And I just wonder whether you could encourage the member to either give the dates for the figures he was using, which show that they'll be out of date, or use the correct data which show that knife crime has fallen in the capital, something we should welcome together.
Yeah. It wasn't a point of order. Would you like to leave the Westminster Hall?
When we're done, yeah.
I'd actually ask you now to leave. Thank you.
Wow, brilliant. Okay,
Thank you. And it wasn't a point of order. It was a point of debate. There are at least 10 people who'd like to speak today, and you do have your chance to speak if you had, but I'm afraid your temper and your attitude doesn't actually belong in Westminster Hall. Lee Anderson.
Thank you, Ms McVeigh. It's not the first time the honourable member has been thrown out of a room on this estate.
So that's the arrogance of the pricks who are destroying our country. Now, ahead of what he believes will be a holy war, Nick Tenkoni, the leader of UKIP, is giving moderate Muslims the chance to take the right side, announcing, "I am calling on all moderate peaceful Muslims to join us on Saturday the 25th of October and to stand with us against Islamist extremism. My hand remains extended. This is your chance to separate from the Islamists and denounce the Islamic Caliphate. Watch."
We have a right to defend ourselves. I'm calling on all Christians, all patriots, and all concerned citizens. Whenever we stand up for ourselves, our values, our faith, and our way of life, the unified voice of the unholy alliance screams and shouts in our face, both online and at street level, calling us racists, fascists, and Nazis. We didn't want or start this war, and it has now been made clear to us that the Islamists and the communists want to wipe us out, and certainly we will be shown no mercy. I say we have a right to self-defence. On Saturday, the 25th of October, you must stand with us in Whitechapel. We reject the occupation of our towns and cities by the expansionist nature of Islamism, and Whitechapel is a prime example of Islamist occupation. It's not personal, citizens. They've tried it on, and now they're going to be met with resistance. The problem, patriots, is that their model is so aggressive and expansive in orientation, and I know that peaceful, moderate Muslims would agree with me, the essence of radical Islam is colonialism. So I say, all is fair in love and war. We, as patriots and Christians, say bring it on. Britain is a Christian land, and we will not stand for being colonised, which I will remind you hasn't happened by battle, strength and heart or military superiority. No, the Islamic Caliphate has been invited in by the liberal traitors in government to colonise Britain. Now, I have met many moderate peaceful Muslims who are not Islamists, and they have said, we get it. We stand against Islamic extremism and Islamism. My hand remains extended to peaceful moderate Muslims who denounce the Islamic Caliphate, and this is where we find out where we stand, patriots. I am calling on all the peaceful moderate Muslims to stand with us on Saturday the 25th of October in Whitechapel. If you stand against Islamism and Islamic extremism, as you say you do, then what's the problem? You should have absolutely no issue standing with us, and Muslims and Christians will unite in the fight against Islamist psychopaths and against the Islamic Caliphate. It is not enough to live in your cohorts and conclaves and stay silent when it comes to the Islamic Caliphate. It is not enough to sit silently when Islamist terror attacks happen. Now is the time to make your voices heard. By not publicly denouncing Islamism, then you willingly or unwillingly become the grass which the extremists sliver through. My hand is extended. Stand with us and join us on Saturday the 25th of October in Whitechapel, and together we will unite against Islamic extremism. Denounce the Islamic Caliphate.
Let's see how many show up. Now, the Superstar panel. The brilliant Lee Harris of Addicted to News and Orla Minihane with me. Orla, I actually read your post on X in yesterday's digest because you are so furious about these migrant hotels and these HMOs, luxury accommodation. You say you feel sick with anger. This can no longer be tolerated. You said to Keir Starmer, you are literally breaking this country and its people. But look, even more examples today. And there's an arrogance about what they're doing, Orla. They don't give a damn. All they want to do is call you a far-right racist and move on.
Well, do you know what? I'm just going to move so you can get me properly in the camera. I am normally a very upbeat, very, glasses half full kind of person, Dan, but I'm getting to a point, much like many, many people, I think, where I am becoming absolutely enraged by what is happening in this country. If you look at that video, and AY Audits, who's a guy that's covered our Epping protests, went into this apartment block in Chelmsford in Essex, 98 apartments, and a guy was interviewed who seemed like a nice enough man, in fairness, but he'd come from Turkey, which is the second most visited tourist destination, holiday destination for Brits. So why is he coming here and looking for asylum? And I loathe the fact people say asylum seekers when they are not asylum seekers. Asylum seekers are people who are coming from seeking asylum because they are coming from war-torn countries. In a piece that you just showed a minute ago, the guy's coming from Georgia. Georgia, I've got friends who've been to Georgia for a weekend away because it's so beautiful. This is the ultimate piss take, excuse my language, of the British people. Now, that guy who was in that video took AY around to his apartment. Two guys lived in a brand new apartment. They both had an ensuite. What is just absolutely ludicrous. On the flip side, yesterday I got a phone call from a couple of ladies in Epping who told me about a woman who has got 6 children who was thrown out of her accommodation. She's 6 months pregnant and she had nowhere to go. She went to the council offices in Harlow and sat there all day. They put her in a Holiday Inn in Southend for one night and they're going to deport her back to Ireland, even though she's lived here. But because she's an Irish citizen, they're going to deport her with 6 children. Yet these men are coming over and going into hotels and staying for years.
Well, indeed. And this is why I now think this is purposeful. I honestly think it is purposeful. And it is part of this plot to import Islam here to the United Kingdom. There's just no other explanation for it. Because when you look at what they're doing to that woman, well, why? Why are they doing it? Because she's Christian and white, probably. Yeah. Lee, then you look at the BBC, okay, and their former flagship presenter, Mishal Husain, has decided to launch this campaign to try and rewrite history about Shamima Begum. And to me, it just completely shouts out about how out of touch our elite class really is.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I just thought it was insanity. Well, I read the brief of what she said at this speech, and to me it just instantly stunk of typical kind of leftist luxury beliefs and an identity politics mindset. No belief in personal responsibility. She was making excuses for Shamima Begum. I found it grotesque in all its form, and it's just. nonsense about what you're saying about is it because it's Muslim. ISIS is fundamentally based on an extreme version of Islamic scripture. Of course, you can be Muslim if you're going to be joining ISIS, but to say that she was treated differently is ludicrous. I don't know if you all remember Jihadi Jack. Jihadi Jack was a British citizen who had dual citizenship with Canada, and the same thing happened to him. I don't think it's got anything to do with it's to do with the act rather than the person. I don't think we're sort of singling someone out. And I did a bit of research on this actually. Between 2010 and 2022, the Home Office stripped 220 individuals of their citizenship on the ground that it was not, conducive to the public good. So this isn't a kind of isolated case. She was obviously, it is the most famous case, but she's obviously just, like you said, completely detached from reality, completely lost touch with how normal people view this case. I found it utterly grotesque, completely out of touch. It's ludicrous, absolutely ludicrous.
And then we get to Daisy Cooper, Orla Minihane, who said in Parliament that Tommy Robinson is a far-right racist hate preacher, compared Elon Musk to Vladimir Putin for funding his terror case. And again, you just think, my God, we're living in two Britons, aren't we?
We are. We're living in the twilight zone. This is a woman whose leader says that women can have a penis. Right. So, I mean, literally, that's all. They're so. And you know what? I was saying to somebody yesterday, actually, the split between. I don't even think it's split between right and left. I think it's split between like insanity and normality. That's how it seems, because you can't keep calling people who are completely insane, who are off the wall, left. So many of them are completely insane. The delusional way that they look at what is happening in this country, I just can't fathom it. Look, at the end of the day, I think she called him, did she call him a hate preacher or a creature? I couldn't work out what she said.
Preacher. It was preacher, but a lot of people thought she'd said creature, and actually both are sort of as bad as each other.
They are, but I mean, these, what? And then Elon Musk, what, in the great scheme of things, when we look at what is happening in this country, all they can do is focus on Tommy Robinson. If it's not Tommy Robinson, it's Nigel Farage. That's it. Literally, the two people that they hate, that's all, everything that's happening is to do with them. Everything that's bad is to do with them. When normal people look at what is happening and think, everything that is going wrong in this country is either to do with liberal lefty champagne socialists or Labour screwing us to the ground, raising taxes, spending money on illegal invaders, putting us at risk, letting men wander around aimlessly and assaulting young girls and murdering them and doing God knows what else. It's like they just can't see the wood for the trees. And the whole country is screaming, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you saying? What are you thinking? And then the minute someone who says anything that everybody thinks, anything sensible or anything that they deem not in agreement with what they are preaching day in and day out, you're a far-right racist. Far-right racist. No one wants to speak to you. Far-right racist. There is no dialogue. There is we're demonized for having a different view to the people on the left. And the people on the left are destroying this country. Destroying it. And it's heartbreaking.
I think the most dangerous man in the country at the moment is this toothless weirdo, Zach Plansky. Because have you noticed the Green Party, which has been given completely positive coverage from the mainstream media, despite the extremity of their positions, has shot up in the polls so high that there is a very real prospect that the real opposition to Reform UK at the next election will be a coalition of that nutter Zach Plansky and Jeremy Corbyn. So we've got to start calling it out. And I was absolutely delighted to see Zach Plansky finally destroyed on live TV because Jeremy Vine, who was very soft on him, made the decision, which I'm sure they regretted, but I was like cheering for, to put Polanski on a panel with Carol Malone. And Carol Malone wasn't having any of this guy's bullshit, including, by the way, his claims that he can enhance someone's breasts via hypnotism. So these exchanges were absolutely brilliant. Watch.
Is it true that you charge women to hypnotise them to make their breast bigger?
No, it's absolutely not true, and he shouldn't have said that live on TV. What is true is that a Sun journalist approached me 13 years ago, 12, 13 years ago, and said, would I do some work around body image? I said, sure. She then said, can you do this ridiculous thing? I said, absolutely not. She said, would you be willing to try it as an experiment for the Sun? Here's my mistake. If someone says they're a Sun, they work for the Sun and they're a journalist.
Well, they told you
both those things can't be true. Yes, it was her idea, and she said she worked for the Sun.
But why would you do it? You're a smart man. Did you not see the trap?
Because I wasn't a politician, and I said back, if you make it... Wait, let me finish. If you're asking me a story, Carol, you've got to let me finish.
I've heard you use this excuse before in dismissing that. It's right that he brought that up. Because I asked you before we went on air what the various jobs you've done. That is an excuse. You did it, nonetheless.
No, I didn't.
You were asked to do it, and you tried it.
So if you'd let me finish,
go on.
I said, as long as you make it clear, it's not something I charge for, it's not a service I do, and this is your idea. She didn't do that. I then went out the next day on BBC Radio and said, this doesn't represent me. This was way before I was involved in politics. I made a mistake, and I own that. But I think we are more than one mistake. And actually, my favourite politician, Tony Benn, used to say, I don't care where you're coming from, I care where you're going. And actually, what I now have is a history and a record of years in politics where I've stood up for marginalised communities, I've spoken out on women's rights,
No, you're the real tit. And you haven't spoken up on women's rights because you believe that a woman can have a bloody penis. But then things got serious. And they got serious, and Malone went even further when he repeated his Nazi slur against Reform UK.
Was it right to say, on that show though, but the bit of the clip before we showed it was you saying to Zia Youssef, you're a fascist?
Well, the reason why we're surging in the polls and the reason why we're getting so many members is because if something walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, I'll call it a duck. And actually, Nigel Farage, when he worked in the European Parliament, used to join forces with the Swedish Democrats. These are literally a Nazi party with roots with the far right.
How dare you throw words like Nazi around? Do you even know what that means? People like you you're just going to get Reform more votes by talking like that. You know, you believe in your politics, Reform believes in theirs, and you cannot call them Nazis for believing in that, because you just make yourself look cheap by
Well, rather than the faux outrage, I think we should focus on the people who want to deport people of colour, who want to extend indefinite
leave to remain. They want to deport people who've come here illegally. It's not about their colour. There you go.
How do you expect people to come here legally if there's no safe and legal route?
There are safe and legal routes. The people who are coming on those boats are choosing to do it that way, and they're doing it because they want to get in here to Britain to work, and they want to get in here.
I mean, you're not a fascist, but you're absurd, because 80% of asylum,
you'd like to call me a fascist
asylum conditions are found to have
you
legitimate
would like to call me a fascist because I don't agree with you.
What an irresponsible idiot. And the clash over Nigel Farage continued.
Did you not see the Farage case where a guy says, I'm going to kill Nigel Farage, shoot him, and he's got a jail sentence
Totally
now.
unacceptable, but that's a different
issue. Could be out in 2 years, yeah, but when he comes out, he's probably going to stay here.
Yes.
Well, that's a completely different question. That's
but
about
why
people...
should he be allowed to apply for asylum here when he's threatened to kill Nigel Farage?
I think if people break the law, that's a different conversation.
So he should be thrown out.
The conversation I'm having with Carol is if people have done absolutely nothing wrong, they're fleeing war and persecution, they get on a small boat.
Not fleeing
why
war
would you get on a small boat
Stats
unless
say that 80% are not fleeing war and persecution. Stop peddling another lie.
Over 80% have a legitimate claim to seek asylum.
That's not the same as what you just said. You said that people are fleeing war and persecution.
Well, what's a legitimate claim then?
They are the legitimate claim is what their lawyers tell them to say when they come across on the boat, and you know that. We all know that.
Well, are their lawyers trying to tell them to say that there was war and persecution?
Fleeing war.
Okay.
I mean, this is the absurdity of this anti-immigration argument.
This is cliches.
And I think it's really destructive and divisive for our community
and you are
and the people who need our support the most.
You are spouting
No, I'm talking the truth, Carol.
Guys.
Now, Polanski actually posted after that, really struck this morning that Jeremy Vine described me and the Green Party as radical several times. Aren't the radicals those who think A, status quo needs maintaining, and B, want to protect the wealth of the super rich? Lower bills, fund the NHS, invest in communities. But the Grift report was furious, writing, as a Jew, I find this cheap attack pure evil from Zach Polanski. You owe Carol Malone and Nigel Farage apologies. This will not win you support from voters. In fact, exactly the opposite. Shame on you, Zach. But Carol Malone wasn't finished there. She had done her research. And the next clash came over the Greens' ludicrous position to legalise all drugs. And by the way, this really does mean legalise all drugs. Like, Polanski wants you to be able to walk down to your local Boots and shoot up with some heroin. That is not an exaggeration. And Malone wasn't having any of it.
You are literally campaigning for vulnerable young people to be taking more drugs. You're advocating giving them free poison. You are advocating young people to stupefy themselves, causing possible brain damage. And what? In the name of a civil liberty? In the name of
would they not be
freedom?
doing it anyway? That's his point. That
My big point is in Portugal they did this. Drug death reduced 80%.
Oh, I'm so glad.
There is no evidence. There is no evidence that legalising something.
Stop.
There is no evidence that legalising something.
You don't get away with mentioning Portugal with hearing the truth about Portugal.
I was just finishing my point, Carol, despite you shouting me down.
Do not mention Portugal.
Hang on,
why don't you just not become an addict in the first place?
Well, that's an absurd question.
Is it? Why is everyone absurd to you?
Because you're absolutely absurd. Because people don't choose to be addicts. That's the whole point. They are addicted.
Right,
no, they're not.
How can you not get this basic principle?
It's not an illness.
We need to turn to another subject.
No,
okay?
I want to talk about when you say it's an illness. A
real
illness is cancer or MS. Don't you dare compare that.
Alcoholism.
Your mental health erasure is pretty offensive to people.
Sorry?
And like James that we just had the call there.
So
I don't think James chose to be addicted. Because you've just said that it's not actually an illness.
He willfully took drugs.
All right, let's...
Isn't it great when you finally see someone just call out the lunacy? And the same thing happened over Polanski's position on J.K. Rowling and the fact that he believes women can have a penis.
I mean, I've got no time for J.K. Rowling, and I think it's really sad that Harry Potter was an amazing book that was about unleashing our kind of power, being confident in who you are, identifying who you are. J.K. Rowling herself writes under pseudonyms of different people, yet she seems to constantly punch down against trans people who, as an LGBT person myself, hate crime over LGBT people has risen 125% in the last 5 years.
Has it?
So to see a billionaire or multimillionaire, probably billionaire, use her platform in this way, in this divisive way, feels pretty sad.
You don't like... one, you don't seem like, because she's a multimillionaire, you don't seem to like rich people at all. However, this is a multimillionaire who has taken flack for sticking up for women's rights. When you say you've got no time for her, that means you have no time for women's rights. That's all she's ever talked about. And she makes it very clear in everything she posts, she's not against people living the life they want. What she's against is the women's rights being eroded because of trans people. And that's what she sticks up for. So if you have no time for her, you have no time for women's rights.
Well, I think I'd start with, first of all, I don't dislike rich people. I just want rich people to pay fair taxation, which is very different. Second, women's rights that I believe, from speaking to women that they want us to be talking about, is violence against women and girls, not being able to get a gynecology appointment, the gender pay gap.
You can't say what women's rights are because you're not one. J.K. Rowling is one, and she stands up for women. So you can't prioritise.
She's one woman, as you are, but also I listen to lots of women who say we are trans inclusive.
But you're still not.
And actually, the problems are...
You do not understand what has been happening to women.
I'm glad we've ended on a positive note.
Well, yeah, but you do not understand the erosion of women's rights.
But you're not trans, so we could all say we're not that thing, so we can't have an opinion.
She's a woman.
You can still have an opinion from listening to people. Yes, you are a woman, and you're one woman with an opinion.
The erosion of women's rights, and I think I didn't have any time for her before this, but now I do.
I don't hear her talking about women's rights, so I just hear her
talking
about trans people.
Well, then you're not listening to her then, because that's all she talks about.
It's all about the pub and the Harry Potter theme.
So he was completely destroyed. Completely destroyed when he finally had to go toe-to-toe with an opponent. To my superstar panel, Lee Harris, Addicted to News, and Orla Minihane. Orla, look, I thought Carol Malone did a brilliant job there. Actually, finally, someone just completely deconstructed the madness of this guy. But look, you're a Reform UK star. You know, you're one of the stars of Reform. How disturbing is it for you to hear him say, with a straight face, to describe your party, Orla, as being fascist, as being comparable to the Nazis? This is dangerous. And I know you can so easily dismiss the Greens, but they're at 15% in the polls now. I understand why Carol Malone is angry, and I think we have to start taking this much more aggressive approach in order to tear down their lies.
Yeah, I love Carol. I think Carol's absolutely brilliant and she is fierce. I love that about her. Look, let's be clear. We get called names all the time. I put a post out the other day that said racist, somebody that doesn't believe or doesn't agree with a Labour voter. Simple. So that's all they have got. Racist, fascist, Nazi. Racist, fascist, Nazi. I get it all day, every day. Hence me wearing my lovely T-shirt. Not right, just right. But the thing is, it's got to a point of sticks and stones. It's absolute nonsense. The irony, and I say this all the time, the irony that the people that call us Nazis are the ones that are going out, the Palestinian mob, going out chanting death to Jews, but we're Nazis. Absolutely bizarre. And the thing is with Zach and Jeremy Corbyn as the party or the coalition that will go, I mean, it's like your worst nightmare. They could make a film, an 18 film of it, and it could be like Nightmare on Elm Street. It is an absolute disaster, those two. Saying they want to legalise drugs. We'll legalise drugs. Yeah, they're the ones that spout about being a vegan. Let's not eat meat because we want to protect our bodies, but you want to legalise drugs. They're everything that they come out with is so just contradicts each other. It's each other. It's like you can't have a conversation because every time, like Carol did, you push them on something, they'll throw something else at you. And then you ask them about why they think X, and then they'll throw something else at you. I mean, what was he just talking about? Women can't get gynecologist appointments. What? What are you talking about? Like, what a random thing to come out with. It's just, they get something fixated in their head, and then they'll push that agenda with actually no substance to the subject. And then when you diss a sister or Nazi, it's utterly bizarre. But on the point, I mean, this man's vile. I literally can't bear him. He's just an absolute. And it shows you that if this man is leading the Greens and they are going up in the polls, I mean, to be fair, it's only Labour or Conservative or Reform, so no one else has got anyone else to go with, so that's why they're doing so well. But if this man has the backing of 15% of the electorate, it just shows you what we're up against.
Well, it does. And remember, Jeremy Corbyn has just this week said, look, there's not going to be a merger between his hard left Islamist party with Zara Sultana and the Greens. But what he will do is deals in seats to try and stop Reform UK. But I think what we're seeing is the smashing of the two-party system. Lee Harris, I do think, though, that exchange proves why the mainstream media failed to do their job when it comes to left-wing politicians time and again. Every interview with Zach Polanski has been a walk in the park. It took him being head-to-head with Carol Malone to actually get something of substance because, in fairness, Jeremy Vine wasn't challenging him on any of this. It was Malone who did it.
No, it's a very good observation, actually. I hadn't thought about it like that, probably because I'm so used to the mainstream media just being very left-wing and very soft to this sort of argument. But what struck me about Zach Polanski, my analysis of him, and I'm going to try and be as fair as I possibly can, I just don't think he's very bright.
No, he's not.
If you listen to him, he's not very
thick as a plank.
He's not very politically aware, is he?
No, stupid man.
And yeah, so not very bright. And if you listen to the arguments that he's making, it's like he's stuck in 2020. It's like a lot of the positions that he's taking have been debunked a while ago. I don't know if you noticed when he was, Carol quite rightly pointed him out on our extremely high acceptance rate. I mean, pretty much everyone, even the man in the street now understands, man or woman in the street understands the high acceptance rate that we have is because of our broken asylum system. He's got absolutely zero ability to critically think about anything. I cannot take the guy seriously because even if I disagree with someone, there are lots of people on the left who I actually admire a lot, but they're able to articulate their arguments and take on these debunked myths if that's what they want to do. He just hasn't got the power or the mental ability to do any of that. I've genuinely been struck by how politically naive he is. And in terms of collecting all these votes, I know he made a big thing of that they came ahead of Labour by like 0.3%. It was like they're both on 15 and they're slightly ahead on 15.6%. He thinks he's getting this positive feedback. He genuinely believes that because people are so upset with the Labour Party and they're falling in falling into the Greens and your party as well, that he kind of thinks this is all positive feedback and everything he's saying is right. But it genuinely feels like someone has turned the telly off and time warped us back to 2020, and it's like that he's having those arguments we had that are just in the past. I find the guy utterly ludicrous.
Do you think though that he can actually make somebody's breasts bigger? Because if that's the case, then I would like. I'm just saying, you know, because it's cheaper than going to Turkey.
Just be a rich man, wouldn't he, if he could?
Absolutely not. He's the only tit. He is the only tit in this conversation. The culture is changing, folks. It really is. And I do think sometimes we have to celebrate the wins, right? And one of those wins has been very much earned by J.K. Rowling, because single-handedly, she put her reputation on the line. She lost everything. She lost her ability. Well, she wouldn't say she lost anything, but when I say that, I mean she lost her ability to be part of polite society, live a happy life where she could show up at the Oscars, hobnob with any major celebrity in the world who she wanted. But of course, her decision to stand up for women's rights against all of the Harry Potter cast members who viciously turned on her has eventually changed the culture. And we saw it this week with Keira Knightley. Because Keira Knightley in the past has been a very woke, pro-trans celebrity. But for financial reasons, she made the decision to sign up to voice one of the characters in the new audiobook of Harry Potter. And of course, that meant that when she was promoting her new Netflix movie, The Woman in Cabin 10, I'm quite looking forward to watching, actually, all of a sudden, there wasn't any of the self-important baloney when she was asked about J.K. Rowling. She didn't dismiss J.K. Rowling as an evil person and speak about trans rights. Instead, she laughed off the question because the culture has moved so significantly. Watch this.
Voicing Professor Umbridge in the new Harry Potter audiobooks. I was wondering, are you aware that some fans are calling for a boycott, given J.K. Rowling's ongoing campaign against trans people?
I was not aware of that, no. I'm very sorry. You know, I think we're all living in a period of time right now where we're all going to have to figure out how to live together, aren't we? And we've all got very different opinions. So I hope that we can all find respect.
And if only that had been the answer of the liberal elite, the Hollywood elite, the woke elite, as they tried to cancel every single human being who didn't sign up to the fact that you could biologically change your sex, something which is, of course, impossible, when they were literally destroying the life of Father Ted creator Graham Minihane, when they were literally painting J.K. Rowling as some type of evil woman. But of course, Keira Knightley's U-turn follows that of Emma Watson. Watch.
Ever cancel her out or cancel that out for anything. It has to remain true. It is true. And this is where this like holding of these, I just don't know what else to do other than hold these two seemingly incompatible things together at the same time and just hope maybe they will one day resolve or co-join themselves, and maybe accept that they never will, but that they can both still be true. And I can love her. I can know she loved me. I can be grateful to her. I can know the things that she said are true. And there can be this whole other thing. And my job feels like to just hold all of it. But the bigger thing is just what she's done will never be taken away from me.
Okay, so they're still self-important con artists, right? But to my superstar panel, Lee Harris of Addicted to News and Orla Minihane. Orla, look, I do think sometimes, though, we have to take the wins, right? And there has been a huge cultural shift when it comes to the issue of biological sex.
Yeah, I mean, there has. If you look at where we were 2-3 years ago, absolutely. But I mean, you know, I've said this before about Emma Watson, what a brat. And it's amazing.
Oh, what an awful little brat.
rat. And you know what? Isn't it amazing what you do when the money starts drying up and you're not, the star anymore? And suddenly you want to, they're so rada and so sweetie darling. And it makes me want to throw up. Do you know what? And now suddenly Emma isn't, the golden girl anymore. Keira Knightley's cracking on a little bit and she's nearly 40 probably. And now suddenly they have to, pander to JK because she's still very famous and got lots of money. Do you know what? They make me want to throw up. And the thing is, they're so disingenuous. That's what really, really gets on my wick. The way they treated, and we've said this before when I've been on this, Dan, the way they treated J.K. Rowling and the way that they literally never bite the hand that feeds you. She picked them from obscurity, made them child stars, did everything for them, and then suddenly they threw her under the bus when their egos got so big. Daniel Radcliffe's another one, can't bear him. I mean, the ginger one.
He was the worst, actually, Daniel Radcliffe.
Yeah.
Daniel Radcliffe was the worst. I mean, he was vile about J.K. Rowling.
Awful, and that just infuriates me so much. I think you were nobodies. She made you as somebody, and then you became famous, and then you threw her under the bus. Shame on them. And do you know what? I wouldn't believe a word that came out of their mouth. Next thing, do you know what? They'll join the Green Party. That'll be the next thing, and they'll put themselves forward as councillors for the Green Party.
But the thing is, what they're doing, Lee, is following a script, right? That's all they've ever done. So they don't actually truly look into these issues. They just know that to stay accepted in Hollywood, we have to pretend that biological sex isn't real. We have to pretend that a woman can chop off their boobs and claim that they're a man. We have to pretend that a man running around with a penis in a dress should be allowed in a women's prison. And they all did that for years. And it's totally changed my perception of J.K. Rowling. I mean, I didn't agree with J.K. Rowling on anything, right? Like, let's be honest, J.K. Rowling on most other issues is a lefty. But as Orla said earlier in the show, it's not really about left versus right on these issues anymore. It's just about truth.
Mm.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree. And I couldn't agree more. And I was going to say, I'm not defending any of them, by the way, but we do know, as you just pointed out, that industry is completely surrounded, unless you've got these acceptable views. I mean, Lawrence Fox is a great one to listen to about the industry. He tells everyone what it's like. Unless you have these acceptable views, then you don't get anywhere, and you get... So I'm not saying I'm not giving them any leeway to get out of it.
No, but your point is that they would potentially lose their careers.
Exactly.
So that's why they all follow this line.
Which is why I found what Keira Knightley said incredibly refreshing. It wasn't just what she did. It was the way that she did it. It was that's what normal people do. That was a normal human reaction to that particular question. And when I watched it, I thought that single laugh kind of immediately and effortlessly destroyed the entire gender ideology argument just by that simple laugh. And because I think a lot of people will watch that, like I did, and just think we were returning to normality a little bit. We're far from we're far from there yet. We've got a long way to go, but we do get, like you said, Dan, we got to take these wins when we get them.
Yeah.
Because it did just make me feel just a little bit normal.
Yeah.
And
we don't want our celebrities to feel like they have to weigh in on politics or cultural war issues every single damn day, when we know they're not living in the real world at all, right? Because they live in gated communities with, it's like Richard Bacon saying that you're racist, right? If you put up the Union Jack flag. Mate, you live in a suburb of Los Angeles where there is a 0.2% non-white population. So actually...
Gary Neville.
Yeah.
Gary Neville,
Gary
another
Lineker,
one. Champagne socialist,
Totally.
And
so just sput out.
Yeah, exactly. Sitting in his mansion, kids go to private, they don't know what it's like to live in the real world. And the thing is that annoys me is people like him. Not a great footballer, but, he did wear the England flag. He wore the England kit and then has the audacity to slate people for being proud of their country and wearing an absolute,
Never sung the national anthem, though, did he? What a scumbag.
No.
Now he finds himself roaming around building sites, pulling down flags.
Yeah. exactly. But only if it's a Union Jack or a St. George's flag, Lee.
Yeah, Union
the
Jack,
Romanian flag, the Bulgarian flag, the Nigerian flag, they can all be left up in Manchester, right? It's only our flag. I mean, what an absolute...
And not Man City.
But yeah, I think hopefully other celebrities will see that reaction from Keira Knightley and think, you know what, there's a way to do this. There's a way to do this. We don't have to weigh in on it all. And actually, you'll get so much more support. Taylor Swift's career has absolutely recovered in recent months. But I would argue her decision to endorse Kamala Harris, making absolutely no difference, right, to the vote, was disastrous for her. We just want to hear you sing. We don't want to hear your political views, which deep down you probably don't even believe, but you just knew that you couldn't back Donald Trump. Breaking today, huge division within the British royal family, with King Charles and Prince William now at war behind the scenes over the future of Prince Andrew as both the Duke of York and in terms of whether he can even stay in the country, following these new revelations from beyond the grave by one of Jeffrey Epstein's victims, Virginia Giuffre, who took her own life earlier this year, having famously been one of Prince Andrew's accuser. That is her new autobiography, Nobody's Girl. It is serialized in the Guardian newspaper today. Now, I'm going to be very transparent with you. Initially, I was very against Prince Andrew, and I thought that he had made huge mistakes in terms of both his friendship and relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Then I believed that there was an almost hysteria that was going around when it came to this case, where both Prince Andrew and Ghislaine Maxwell were being used by lots of high-profile figures in the US, including Bill Gates and Bill Clinton, as the two people who were going to take the fall for all of Jeffrey Epstein's terrible crimes. And I also believe that Prince Andrew never had an opportunity to defend himself in court because so much pressure was put on him by the royal establishment not to destroy his mum, the late Queen Elizabeth II's, Platinum Jubilee. So that is some of the context, that is some of the background to this. And I will also point out, and again, this won't be palatable to some people, but I'm just an honest broker, and I'm always going to say it as it is. Virginia Giuffre was a very troubled woman with a horrible past, and I feel deeply sorry for her, given the abuse that she suffered as a young woman. And I'm talking about as a child too. But she was proven as a liar on multiple occasions. She lied about her age when she worked at Mar-a-Lago. She lied about her sexual relationship with Alan Dershowitz, which actually never happened. She had to take it back and apologize to him because otherwise she was going to go down for perjury. She lied about an encounter with Prince Andrew, which was meant to have taken place in Santa Fe. And of course, famously, just weeks before her death, she lied about the fact that she was in a near-death bus crash while in Australia. So she's a troubled human being. But, and this is a big but, Prince Andrew, over the past few weeks, has been proven to be a liar as well. That damning email that he sent to Jeffrey Epstein after the publication of the picture of him with both Virginia Giuffre and Ghislaine Maxwell, unfortunately, does prove Prince William right on a whole load of levels. So this was sent to Jeffrey Epstein after the publication of that picture on Monday, February the 28th, 2011. And he wrote, "I'm just as concerned for you." I mean, remember at this point, Jeffrey Epstein is a convicted paedophile. He's gone to jail. "Don't worry about me. It would seem we are in this together and we'll have to rise above it. Otherwise, keep in close touch and we'll play some more soon." Prince Andrew lied because he claimed that he had cut contact with Jeffrey Epstein by that point. But I wanted to give you all of that context before I share with you the extract from Virginia Giuffre's book. Because this is not a simple story. Virginia Giuffre, remember, became very rich as a result of her claims about famous men like Prince Andrew. And Prince Andrew, in his settlement with Virginia Giuffre, did not admit to any sexual relationship with her. In saying that, the publication of this book is harrowing. And the context, and this is where a lot of you will be very interested, is about how does this impact the royal family? As it stands, King Charles hasn't even been prepared to take away Prince Andrew's right to host shooting weekends. Prince William wants him gone. Prince William wants him out of the country. Prince William wants him forever exiled, ideally on some little Saudi Arabian island, never to return to the United Kingdom again. Prince William believes he's a big issue, just like his brother is a big issue, and actually Charles's weakness has been allowing Andrew and Harry back in. So while William has a huge amount of respect for his father, I mean, we saw their public appearance last week, which was filled with a lot of affection, there's also a lot of trauma going on here, because William believes that Charles is putting the royal family at risk by not dealing with Andrew and Harry appropriately. So that is the context in which The Guardian publishes this harrowing account of what went on between Virginia Giuffre and Prince Andrew, said to be written by Virginia Giuffre before her suicide. The headline, Prince Andrew believed having sex with me was his birthright. Virginia Giuffre on her abuse at the hands of Epstein, Maxwell, and the King's brother. And Virginia Giuffre from Beyond the Grave writes, on the 10th of March 2001, we were in London staying at Maxwell's White Mews house, a short walk from Hyde Park. Maxwell woke me up that morning by announcing in a sing-songy voice, get out of bed, sleepyhead. It was going to be a special day, she said. Just like Cinderella, I was going to meet a handsome prince. Her old friend Prince Andrew would be dining with us that night, she said, and we had lots to do to get me ready. Maxwell and I spent most of that day shopping. She bought me an expensive purse from Burberry and 3 different outfits. When we got back to her house, I laid them out on the bed. There were 2 sexy, sophisticated dresses she had picked out and a third option that I'd lobbied for. A pink V-neck sleeveless mini t-shirt and a sparkly multicoloured pair of jeans embroidered with a pattern of interlocking horses. After I showered and dried my hair, I put on the jeans and top, which left a strip of my stomach exposed. Maxwell wasn't thrilled, but like most teenage girls then, I idolised Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera, and the third outfit was something I imagined the two of them might wear. When Prince Andrew arrived at the house that evening, Maxwell was more coquettish than usual. Guess Jenna's age, she urged the prince after she introduced me. The Duke of York, who was then 41, guessed correctly. 17. My daughters are just a little younger than you, he told me, explaining his accuracy. As usual, Maxwell was quick with a joke. I guess we will have to trade her in soon. In contrast to his appearance today, stout, white-haired and jowly, Prince Andrew then was still relatively fit, with short-cropped brown hair and youthful eyes. He'd long been known as the playboy of the royal family. When I noticed that Epstein called the Prince Andy, I began to call him that too. As we chatted in Maxwell's entryway, I suddenly thought of something. My mom would never forgive me if I met someone as famous as Prince Andrew and didn't pose for a picture. I ran to get a Kodak funsaver from my room, then returned and handed it to Epstein. I remember the prince putting his arm around my waist as Maxwell grinned behind me. Epstein snapped the photo. After a bit more small talk, the 4 of us headed out into the cold spring air. We went to a restaurant for dinner, and afterward to an exclusive nightclub called Tramp. The prince went to the bar and came back with a cocktail for me. Then he invited me to dance. He was sort of a bumbling dancer, and I remember he sweated profusely. On the way back, Maxwell told me when we get home, you were to do for him what you do for Jeffrey. Back at the house, Maxwell and Epstein said goodnight and headed upstairs, signalling it was time that I take care of the prince. In the years since, I've thought a lot about how he behaved. He was friendly enough, but still entitled, as if he believed having sex with me was his birthright. I drew him a hot bath, We disrobed and got in the tub, but didn't stay there long because the prince was eager to get to the bed. He was particularly attentive to my feet, caressing my toes and licking my arches. That was a first for me, and it tickled. I was nervous he would want me to do the same to him, but I needn't have worried. He seemed in a rush to have intercourse. Afterward, he said thank you in his clipped British accent. In my memory, the whole thing lasted less than half an hour. The next morning, Maxwell told me you did well, the prince had fun. Epstein would give me $15,000 for servicing the man the tabloids called Randy Andy. My second encounter with Prince Andrew took place about a month later at Epstein's townhouse in New York. Epstein greeted Andrew and brought me to his living room where Maxwell and I were sitting. Another one of their victims, Joanna Soberg, arrived soon after. Maxwell then announced to the prince that she had purchased him a joke gift, a puppet that looked just like him. He suggested we pose for a photo with it. The prince and I sat down next to each other on the couch, and Maxwell put the puppet in my lap, positioning one of his hands on one of my breasts. Then she put Sjoberg on the prince's lap, and the prince put his hand on Sjoberg's breast. The symbolism was impossible to ignore. Joanna and I were Maxwell and Epstein's puppets, and they were pulling the strings. I don't know exactly when I had sex with Prince Andrew for the third time, but I do know the location, a 72-acre island Epstein owned in the US Virgin Islands. The private sanctuary right next to St. Thomas Island was called Little St. James, but Epstein liked to call it Little St. Jeff's. I also know that it was not just the two of us this time, it was an orgy. I was around 18, I said in a sworn declaration in 2015. Epstein, Andy, and approximately 8 other girls and I had sex together. The other girls all appeared to be under the age of 18 and didn't really speak English. Epstein laughed about how they couldn't really communicate, saying they are the easiest girls to get along with. Since I gave that account, Epstein's pilot has said in a deposition that a coded notation that he made on his flight log for 4th of July 2001 referred to Prince Andrew. He said that Epstein, the prince, another woman and I flew from St. Thomas that day back to Palm Beach. I guess it's possible that the orgy I remembered occurred in the days leading up to that flight, which would mean I was still 17. I'll probably never know the date for certain. What I do know, because Epstein told me, is that Jean-Luc Brunel, the French modelling agent who was also in attendance, supplied the other girls who took part. There were 2 footnotes to this book, serialised in The Guardian. Virginia Giuffre died by suicide on the 25th of April 2025. In February 2022, her lawyers obtained a settlement from Prince Andrew. It was made without any admission of liability on his part, and he continues to deny Giuffre's allegations that he had sex with her, that she had been trafficked to him by Epstein, or indeed that he had even met her. This is adapted from Nobody's Girl, a memoir of surviving abuse and fighting for justice by Virginia Roberts Giuffre, published on Doubleday on the 21st of October. Difficult stuff. Very, very difficult stuff. But I wanted to provide the full context before going to my superstar panel, Lee Harris of Addicted to News and Orla Minihane. Orla, what do you make of it?
I mean, the abuse of any child, and let's be clear, a 17-year-old is a child, okay? And if Mishal Husain can get up and you know, talk about a 15-year-old going to, you know, to be with ISIS, being a child and vulnerable, then we can say the same about this poor woman. You know, the thing is, and I've always been a royalist, and I am a royalist, and I have got the utmost respect. I had the utmost respect for the late Queen, and I had the utmost respect for William and Kate. I think that Charles is weak, yes, very much so. And I think that Andrew should absolutely be cast aside. And, you know, it's not like he's ever going to have to live or, you know, in a box or be homeless, but I think he needs to be absolutely out of public life and away from the royal family, because I think he completely trashes their name and their reputation, and I think it's awful. I mean, the man's a predator, right? He absolutely is. And you know, to say to and you said that she was mentally unwell and that she was unstable, and of course she was. Anyone that's been through abuse as a child, yes, and has been trafficked like she has and used and abused by men is going to be mentally unstable. And then she gets older, she's called a liar continuously, you know, everything that she says is scrutinized. you know, the poor woman probably got to a point where she just couldn't take it anymore and tragically ended her life. And it's absolutely horrendous. But, you know, ultimately, him sending that email, I mean, what kind of an idiot sends an email in the first place when it's so high profile? And I mean, you know, we'll play again soon. I mean, it really is just horrendous. You know, again, he hasn't been proven to do anything. He is just a disgusting old pervert. Let's just be clear about that. And the royal family would do themselves the world of good to just disconnect with him completely, him and Fergie, to be fair. But, and I agree with William, but I mean, this, you know, I think about her and the other girls that were passed around like parcels between these disgusting men, and it just makes me want to throw up. It's just horrific. It just really is. And I mean, you know, this happens, let's just be honest, this happens every day throughout the world on a huge scale. And the only reason that this is so public is because of who he is and who Epstein was. But I mean, the millions and millions of girls and boys who are assaulted and trafficked every day is just, I mean, it's horrendous. It is absolutely horrendous. And we're all powerless to stop it, to be fair. It's awful, awful.
No, it is. Very well put, Orla. Lee Harris, are you with Prince William, who just thinks Andrew needs to be banished now and ideally should actually be out of the UK? This is one of the arguments, Lee, for taking away his shooting weekends, because up until this point, so this is a real aristocratic thing, but he has the right to host these shooting weekends at Sandringham and Windsor, which still gives him a sort of social cachet, you know, in that high society world. And Charles has sort of said, well, you know, if you take those away, what does my brother have left to live for? But I think William's point is basically, no, that's what we want, because we want Andrew to feel like he has to go to a Middle Eastern country to actually be protected and live a life there and actually be out of the UK.
Yeah, I completely agree with Prince William on this. You know, what happens behind closed doors, that's slightly different to what happens in public. And I think that taking the kind of Prince Charles approach, which is kind of like a more soft approach and not really tackling the issues head on, means it's going to rumble on and on and on. You need to just nip it in the bud. I would take kind of 4 steps. I would distance myself publicly in a way of a kind of statement. So I would make a public statement against Prince Andrew. I would then make sure all his titles were removed. And then I would remove him from the Royal Lodge and again, follow that up with yet another public statement. And I wouldn't just I would just say, you are completely cut off. You know, we've got some friends in this country, you can go and stay with them. But you know what happens behind closed doors. I've talked from my own experience. We've had family fallouts in my family. You know, and the way you kind of deal with it, obviously it's completely different in this case. But the way you deal with the family fallouts, you do it all behind closed doors. You can't do that as the royal family. They need to publicly cut him off. It needs to stop now, because if you carry on letting Charles just kick it into the long grass, it's never going to go away. A bit like Smashing the Gangs, kick it into long grass. It's just never gonna. They're never going to do anything about it. So it's going to carry on this pain. Prince William's absolutely right. Cut him off. Get him gone.
Do you know what though? The thing is, it's like, you know, and we've all been in this situation when a mother dies or a grandmother, like a matriarch in a family. Everything goes to pot. A lot of the time it goes to pot afterwards, and you know you don't really, you know, they are still a family. They've still got all the issues and all the, you know, drama and the infighting that every other family has, regardless of the, you know, your class or your, you know, your status. And we don't know what Charles promised Queen Elizabeth. You know, did she say to him on her deathbed, make sure you always look after Andrew? We know that Andrew was her favourite. Does he feel guilty? You know, I mean, Charles is an old man. You know, I mean, I'm not his biggest fan, but he's an old man. And he probably
he's battling cancer himself.
Yeah, so... correct. Then he's got the issue with Harry, that moron of a son of his. So the drama, and actually William seems to be a very sensible, stoic, you know, almost like a cardboard cutout of his grandmother. you know, where he really takes his role seriously. And he's saying, I will protect the realm with everything I've got. And if that means cutting Andrew off, then that's what I'll do. But I think that he has enough respect to Charles to probably not bully him into that. But I mean, my view is that, you know, and obviously I'm not wishing any harm to Charles, but I think we'll be in a much better place when William takes the throne, to be
No,
honest.
I understand what you're saying. And I think this is unfortunately going to be left to William. I mean, I've been advocating for a long time. There should be an Act of Parliament. That Act of Parliament could strip both Prince Harry and Prince Andrew and Meghan Markle of their titles. Just do it. Just do it. Actually, it would strengthen the royal family.
It
and
really would.
There'd be a lot of respect and there'd also be a lot of political support. But remember, the government are not going to do that unless Charles asks them to. That's how sensitive it is. But, wow, what a fabulous superstar panel. We have covered it all today. I adore you both. Lee Harris, who is otherwise known as Addicted to News. And where can people find out all of your brilliant stuff, Lee?
Predominantly on X. That's where I'm gobbing off the most, without a doubt. So find me on X at Addicted to News. But I'm also on YouTube and TikTok, all of them pretty much. Apart from Facebook, which I'm permanently banned from, apparently.
God. And you'll be back soon enough because they're finally having to wake up. And Orla, Minihane, you have another big Pink Lady protest coming, right?
We do.
What do we need to know?
We do. 22nd of November in Braintree in Essex. Braintree has got a barracks of 1,200 illegal migrants.
Oh my
and
God.
These guys are being bussed in every day into Braintree, which is a beautiful little town, and they are running riot in this town and causing mayhem. The sexual assaults and the bullying and the shoplifting is out of control, and we are basically calling to all our Pink Ladies across Essex and men to come and be with us on the 22nd of November, because we are mobilising Pink Ladies across the UK. It's literally grown arms and legs, which is amazing because we all feel the same. We are not here to be abused and sacrificial lambs to this government's cultural enrichment.
Keep going. I adore the Pink Ladies. You are doing such amazing work. Thank you both so much.
I second that. I just was going to say I'll try and make it, and I think
amazing. Please do. Please do. Thanks, guys.
Orla, Minihane, Lee Harris, Addicted to News. Thank you both so much. What a fabulous superstar panel today. Thank you for all of your feedback, by the way, coming through. The Racing Queen 1 says of Mishal Husain, of Daisy Cooper, she clearly needs to go back to school and learn what racism actually is and what our history is. We need to get the radical left out of government. My God, we do. Wannabe Artist says, Tommy Robinson isn't one person. It represents British patriots and their values, the British majority. That's how I feel. I really do. And on Zach Polanski against animal abuse says, where does this tosspot Zach live? In a gated community? A pure lefty middle class mummy's boy. Yes, he is. Okay, Union Jackass, my God, it has been super close today, so I hope that you voted. Here is a reminder of your nominees. Rachel Reeves, nominated by Mick Cass for finally admitting what we already knew. She's about to raise taxes for working people, breaking a major Labour manifesto. Jess Phillips, nominated by Blame Game for her zero progress on the national inquiry into grooming gangs. And Nina Mishkov, nominated by Drew59 Blue for blaming pensioners and Brexit for our increasing debt rather than illegal immigration. And in third position, it was Nina Mishkov with 20% of the vote. Then, this is super tight, the tightest race we've ever had, both on 40%. But the runner-up was Jess Phillips, and the winner, today's Union Jackass, Rachel from Accounts. And today's Greatest Britain, I really like this one. Becca Catherine Vixwit nominated Liam Payne on the 1-year anniversary of his death. She said Liam was one of the sweetest and kindest people one could ever imagine to meet. His talent was incredible. Without Liam, One Direction would not have been so successful as they were and still are. And I had a real soft spot for Liam Payne, was absolutely devastated by what happened to him a year ago today. So thinking of him and his family on this anniversary. Okay, we're moving to Substack now for the Royal Uncancelled After Show where Lady Colin Campbell is going to be unleashed. Honestly, I'm super excited about this. She's got some real revelations to come. So head over to www.outspoken.live and sign up to my Substack in order to watch. So we're going to move off YouTube and Rumble, move to Substack, but I will be back with you live tomorrow, 5 p.m. UK time, midday Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Hit subscribe on YouTube and Rumble, and most importantly, I promise to keep fighting for you.